All right, how are we doing? We are halfway through the course. So, unless something's going wrong, our lives should be 50% more meaningful at this point, no? More purposeful. You guys agree or no? Agreed. Okay, very, very good. Dear friends, today we are talking about Lesson 4, Meaning in the Rhythms of Time. We're talking today about time. Now, if you remember in our first class, we spoke about, I first introduced the book of Ecclesiastes that King Solomon wrote, which is the book, part of our Holy Scripture, where King Solomon is trying to beckon us on a journey, to join him on a thought experiment of what is the meaning of life, what really matters in life. So we introduced that, and we began our journey in this course with that text. Now, a full chapter in the book of Ecclesiastes is dedicated to time. The whole concept of time, which is especially frustrating. How you doing, Lisa? With Jews especially have a very unique relationship with time. All right, here's the story. Here goes the story.
Is that my cue?
That's your cue. No Mark tonight?
No mark.
No Mark tonight. All right.
We're on Eli duty.
There you go. Okay, very good. Okay. 3 men show up to the gates of heaven and hell at the same time. One's a Frenchman, one's an Italian, and one's a Jew. How are we doing, little leaves? Right over here. Well, the Frenchman's up first. They look at his folder. They look at his file. And they say, listen, you got to go to hell. But you got a choice. Would you like to go to regular hell or the French hell? So he says, well, what's the French hell? As if he knows what regular hell is. But what's French hell? So they say, listen, French hell is like this. Every single day we put up a fresh, massive vat of hot French onion soup. And we get it boiling, piping hot, and then we throw you in every day.
Oh boy.
And he says, oh, no, I won't be able to handle that. Just send me to regular hell. Sure, no problem, regular hell. Then it's the Italian. How are we doing that now? Come on in. The Italian, they say, all right, you got to go to hell, regular hell or Italian hell. He says, well, what's Italian hell? Every single day, we put up a massive hot vat of minestrone soup. We throw you in. And the guy says, oh, no, I'll never be able to handle that. Just send me to regular hell. All right? Then it's the Jew's turn. He says, well, you got to go to hell, but regular hell or Jewish hell? So he says, well, what's Jewish hell? So he says, every single day we put up a massive, hot, piping vat of chicken soup, and we throw you in every day. And the Jew says, you know what? I think I'll take it. And the secretary angel says, you sure about this? You saw the other 2 guys weren't so thrilled about this idea. Are you sure you're up to this? And the Jew says, listen, I have experience with Jewish functions. They don't start on time, and the food's never that hot.
That's it.
Okay, now dear friends, I don't mean to get into the concept of heaven and hell. That's a different course. What does Judaism believe about heaven and hell? Which we have covered that. We have covered that, and God willing, we'll find another good opportunity to cover that. Okay, but the point is like this. It's a major topic that spans all the way back to ancient philosophy, the frustration with time. The frustration with time. That time is, on the one hand, one of the most driving forces of life. Right? What's life if not going through life? Trying to make your life and the time that you have count. Trying not to waste it. And really, you see this in ancient philosophy. They're trying to grapple to understand what is time, and also these frustrations of time. There's even this idea of how do you even define time? What even is time? On the one hand, is it real? Is it not real? It comes, it goes. And the idea is, if the past is in the present, if the past is in the past, so it's beyond your control, it's done, it's history. And if the future is still unborn, no one knows what it is. And if all I got is the present, then what actually is the present? What really is time? So it's very, very interesting that time is it's at the core of the search for meaning. And King Solomon does that as well. So dear friends, we are here today to learn what Judaism teaches about time, because this is a critical piece of getting into the Kabbalah of meaning. Spiritual living is very, very much anchored on time. I once read something which is absolutely fascinating. It blew my mind. That they've done research. At what point in history did humanity, the civilization, begin getting a sense of what time they live in? And you should know, it really was not that long ago. Somewhere around 500 years ago was the first time when the common person had a sense of, okay, I live in this period of time. This is the history that came before me. There were different ages and stages and phases. Even just that awareness, putting yourself within a context of time, and that also includes a context of space. Where do I live? I don't know where I live. Is there a world out there? I don't even know if there's a world out there, right? That whole idea that you kind of put yourself within the larger context of reality is considered a very recent phenomenon of civilization. For most of human civilization, humans just lived. People didn't keep track really of even their age. No one knew how old they are. People didn't know what year it is. When was I born? I don't know. I don't have any clue. Birthday? It's like this whole concept of being in tune to a sense of time is very recent, and historians say that was the first signs of humanity entering the age of enlightenment. The sense that people are thinking a little bit out of the box. But interestingly, Judaism has always been hyper-focused. That the Jewish people are very in tune to time. What year is it? What date what day of the week is it? What month is it? Guys, people always had a sense of time of seasons. Okay, new season's here. But not a sense of months, and not a sense of understanding what's coming, what's going, just, reactive to the seasons. Jews have always had this count, and a sense of the holidays, and a sense of going through this rhythm of time. It's unbelievable how you see that the Jews were really the only ones doing this. For sure that this was happening en masse. Every single Jew, even a child, understands what's today's date, what's today's month, what's today's day of the week. We're very into time. Very into time. And it's really central to Jewish spiritual living, as we're going to be learning today. And dear friends, God willing, this is a fascinating class. This whole concept, because I don't think this concept gets enough, airtime in Jewish learning and Jewish teaching. This whole time is very, very spiritual. So we're going to be learning about that today. You ready?
Ready.
Ready. There we go. L'chaim, l'chaim. L'chaim for, we're living through time. This is our time right now. Okay. That's also, time feels very, very mundane. Like time is just time. It's not waiting around for you. There's nothing, meaning inherent to time is just time's ticking, right? There's nothing special, nothing inspiring about time. In fact, time could even be, a little bit depressing. Time goes by, reminds you about how much you haven't done, reminds you maybe also a little bit of wasted opportunity and how life is slowly withering away. That's usually the morbid tone that you see in philosophy. Time is a very sad reminder of just how bad we are at actually using it. Okay, but dear friends, let's talk not about what Greek philosophy says, but what Judaism teaches. Let's first do some exercises to establish a very basic point, but a very profound point at the same time. Okay. It's in your books on page 100, but I want to do this thought process with you, all right? A little bit of a mental exercise here. Imagine you go on vacation to Massachusetts. Anybody ever go on a vacation to Massachusetts? Yeah, I don't know. Didn't think so. Yeah. Who goes to Massachusetts for vacation? I guess so. Maybe, yeah. I don't know. Okay. Is it? Yeah. It's cold. I don't know, right? Massachusetts is more north than here, no? Something like that. Okay, maybe in the summer. All right. I don't know. Nothing against Massachusetts. Okay, I'm sorry. Boston, you got Boston. Okay. So in Massachusetts, you can go and see a remarkably unremarkable tourist site, which is called Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock is actually a very, very not impressive looking rock. And they say, legend has it, which major question mark, if this legend is even true, that when the original pilgrims arrived here on U.S. soil in, 16-something, 1620? No, 1620, yeah? Okay. Something like that, long time ago, where did they first land? On Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock. So you could go and look at Plymouth Rock, somewhere there by the shoreline. Okay. Now, and by the way, just fun fact, I was reading this on Wikipedia, that Plymouth Rock was only considered Plymouth Rock only over 100 years later. Some old man said, "This is the rock." I remember everybody always said this was the rock that they landed on. So this one old guy, like 125 years later, either he was selling us a boat, or selling us a bridge, or selling us a rock. But Plymouth Rock. All right. I hope he made some money off of it at least. Okay. Plymouth Rock. Now imagine you're there with your children. And you say, "This is Plymouth Rock. This is where the original colonialists, I don't know, the whole American story starts with this rock." And you have a little boy, and he says, "Why this rock? Why do they choose this rock?" What would you say?
Why not?
Why not? Why, yeah. Or in other words, what?
Could be any.
It could be any. Yeah, meaning you'll tell the boy, "You're right. It didn't need to be this rock. There's nothing remarkable about this rock. It was pure chance, pure coincidence, purely incidental that they landed on this rock, and actually they never even planned on coming to this rock. If I'm not mistaken, they wanted to land like in Virginia, and for some reason they ended up going north and landed in Massachusetts. So this wasn't even meant to be the rock, but it ended up being the rock. But you're right, nothing really special about this rock. It didn't have to be this rock." Right? That makes sense, right? Now, let's go to the coast to coast. Let's go to the other coast. Just north of Los Angeles, in the mountains and forests just north of Los Angeles, which is actually where a lot of the wildfires, you remember that? Just a few months ago. Yeah. That's where they raged from. There's a mountain that's called Mount Wilson. And there on Mount Wilson, they have a whole observatory, space observatory, at the peak of Mount Wilson. And you can go and you can look at telescopes and see what's happening there. And the story is that the original Mr. Hubble, or Dr. Hubble, I was never there, by the way, in either of these locations, so just please don't ask me too many details about them. All right? I was never by Mount Wilson. I was in Los Angeles, but not by Mount Wilson. I was never by the Plymouth Rock, but okay. Dr. Hubble set up his telescopes there in the early half of the 20th century, and he made unbelievable discoveries of the galaxies beyond our own galaxy, unbelievable discoveries that Dr. Hubble made up there, and then indeed became an observatory from then and on. So here's my question. You're there with your little boy, and the little boy says, "Why this mountain? Why did Dr. Hubble decide this mountain? Why not another mountain?" So what's the answer? The answer would be no. This mountain is the mountain. Why? Because it has a very, very high altitude. And Los Angeles, this area, has a very, very stable atmosphere. And that is the perfect environment for doing long-term research where you need to get, you need to be monitoring things long-term, and you can't have atmospheric changes and disturbances. You have this consent. This is the best mountain. This mountain is the best suited space for doing this type of research. So, what I'm pointing out to you over here is that Plymouth Rock and Mount Wilson are both very significant places, but their meaning is extremely different. They're not the same. And I want to name it like this. Plymouth Rock has value, but it's called assigned value, which means it does not have value inherently, intrinsically. Rather, it was assigned a value. Something happened to the rock or by the rock, so we assign value to the rock, but the rock itself has no inherent value. Versus Mount Wilson, which we're going to say has intrinsic value, which means its value came before what we did with that value came. Which means even before the observatory was built here, and even before Dr. Hubble decided to start doing research over here, it was already the best setting. It was a special mountain even before. This is assigned value and intrinsic value. Like also, if you go to the corner over here, you say, why is there a CVS on this corner, and why is there then a Walgreens on the other corner? What would you say? I don't know.
There's research about it.
There is research. That is true. No, there's research why they do next to each other.
Right.
But why this corner? Why maybe they should have been the other corners. And what would you say? I don't know. There's nothing special about the corn. They have to build a store. Here's a store. Versus, what if you say, why do you make wine in Champagne, France? Why Champagne? Why can't we do it here in Michigan? And why do they make maple syrup, also like in the northeast of the U.S., in Canada? Why can't we make maple syrup somewhere else? So what would you say? No, this isn't random. This isn't by choice. This isn't arbitrary choice. This climate itself is what's conducive for this thing. Which means the value is even before we found what to do with the value. The value was always there. Let's now do another example of this. Yes?
Sometimes the value, this world is so mysterious that we don't always know the value.
That is also true.
We assume that it's an assigned value or an intrinsic value, but there could be an energetic principle or somebody was called to that specific moment or that specific place from something beyond that which is visible.
We do believe that. We do believe that everything in this universe is divine providence, but I'm more coming from just a regular human perspective, right? So even though, Judaism does believe that nothing is random, nothing's by chance, and even if this rock is where something happened, that means the rock is special. But nonetheless, I'm talking from our human experience. We can clearly say, this just happened by chance versus, this entity deserved this value. It always deserved it. No, its value is coming for it. Okay. Here's another example. The Nobel Prize. Nobel Prize, probably a Jew won it. No, not actually. But there's 25% chance that a Jew got the Nobel Prize. All right, just last year, 2024. There's a Jew from Seattle, did research in chemistry, biology, and he won. His name is Dr. David Baker. He won the Nobel Prize. All right, wonderful. And let's contrast that with an idea that they do sometimes, that the millionth person who walks into a store, or the millionth person who signs up for this thing, millionth person to walk into this stadium, gets a big prize. So they have this sometimes. They build a new metro system. The millionth person to walk through the turnstile, all of a sudden, hey, the media's there, and they're good. This is the millionth customer. Lifetime membership to lifetime empty metro card. All right. So someone gets the 1 millionth customer ticket. Another one gets the Nobel Prize. If the little boy comes and asks, why did this person get the 1 millionth person prize? What would you say? Why this person? Why not somebody else? In other words, did the person deserve it?
No, they just were in the right place.
No, right place, right time. It happened to be nothing to do with you, right? Nothing personal. Just, okay, you happen to walk through at the right time, right place. You get the money. And he says, why did this guy deserve the Nobel Prize? You say, no, he deserved it. Even before he got the Nobel Prize, he was always Nobel Prize worthy. Then the Nobel Committee decided that he should actually be awarded it. But this thing is just random. Right? It had to be somebody. Somebody had to be the millionth person. This was the millionth person. It's not a reflection of their character or anything like that. Right? So the same shtick going on over here. This is assigned value. We're deciding to make a big deal out of you, not because of you. We're just assigning the value, arbitrarily kind of. You happen to be the millionth person, versus this is intrinsic value. This person spent years, deserved it, and now they're getting what they deserved always. Let's now bring this to the concept of time. Let's talk about the holidays that we celebrate or commemorate on the secular American calendar. So let's take a look at these things. So July 4th is a date that the Declaration of Independence was ratified, signed. Okay. July 4th, 1776, right? No. Why July 4th? Same thing, right? It could have been July 3rd. It could have been July 5th. It had to be some date. This is the date that it ended up happening. No big deal. Meaning, what came first? I know, don't worry. No, it's a good point. It's a good point. We're actually going to get to that next class. But from our human perspective, right? When the founding fathers were choosing the date, this is the date we're going to be meeting. Did they say, wow, July 4th, this is a special day? Or did they say we're just going to choose a date? Then they did something very, very special on that date. Like, oh, now let's commemorate this date. can you think about also your wedding anniversary? Is my wedding anniversary, did the date come before the event, or did the event make the date special? Right. So from a human perspective, just the chips have to fall in the right place. We call it the hall. When are you available? Musician, when are you available? Oh, musician's not available. Call back the hall. We're not doing that date. Oh, there's a date. Okay, this is the date. All right, Columbus Day. Mr. Columbus. Did he plan on landing in the Bahamas on a certain date? No, he's going. He landed on a date. Okay, that date became special, Columbus Day. Veterans Day we just had, right? November 11th? 11th?
Yeah, it's Armistice Day.
There's Armistice Day, right? The date that they signed the armistice, officially ending World War I, that becomes Veterans Day. Same thing. Are they ending World War I on this day because this is the special opportune day? Or is it just, today is the day we're ready to do it? It could have been November 2nd, 10th, could have been a week from now. Okay, this is the date. It becomes Veterans. So generally, we would think of time, of dates, of time, as something which is not inherently meaningful, not inherently special, but because special things happened on this time, therefore we assign it meaning the same way Plymouth Rock got assigned meaning, and the same way that a street corner was assigned meaning because they built a CVS there. Now it's meaningful. CVS. Very meaningful. Mother's Day. Is Mother's Day the day that the energy in the ears that the day that mothers are shining? No, it's Mother's Day. It's just a day. We randomly choose a day. It's an old critique on America. Like, to make a day Mother's Day. A whole year, you can be chutzpah to your mother. A whole year, right? There's no respect to your mother. One day we'll give you, Well, it's just Mother's Day, right? There's no real meaning to the day. We're just going to assign some meaning to it. This is also the idea that today, or I don't know when it started, but a lot of these holidays, Columbus Day, not Veterans Day, Martin Luther King, President's Day, when they don't do it on the day. They move it to the nearest Monday. Right? Is anybody bothered by that? Like, no, this is not the day Christopher Columbus landed on the Bahamas. You can't move the date. There's not the date. Is anybody bothered by that? No, right? And Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Okay, it's not the day he was born. What do you do? No, big deal. We'll move it 3 days over. No one, right? No one's losing sleep on it, right? Which means the date is not actually like that relevant to the commemoration of things. It's also, just to tease us out a drop more, does a hot dog taste different on July 4th than it does on July 5th?
Sometimes. It depends on the cook.
Depends on the cook. They're like a July 4th hot dog. This is a different hot dog. You eat it on July 4th. This date makes it different. Is it? No, of course not. Right? This is a hot dog. Okay, on July 4th, we eat a hot dog. So generally speaking, from the way we as humans think about time, is that time has no meaning. Days just come by, minutes go by. They're just ticking. Right? It's on its own calendar. It's on its own schedule. Whatever that is, subjective, objective time, whatever it is. And again, we'll, as humanity, because we like assigning meaning to things, we'll assign meaning to different dates. But it's not that there's anything inherently meaningful about it. Okay. Are we all on board with this concept that generally people look at time as something which is not inherently meaningful? And we could assign value and meaning to days, but not that the day itself is special on its own. Are we all on the same page? Yeah. Comes along Judaism and turns time upside down. And Judaism says it's not the way. Time, the meaning of time, has nothing to do with assigning meaning to that time because of what happened. Time itself is something which is meaningful. Or in the words of Kabbalah, time is pregnant. What does pregnancy mean? Pregnancy means that there's a carried potential. There's an energy in the air. There's something cooking over here. Time has meaning. And the meaning comes before everything. And that's what I want to learn with you. The key to Jewish spirituality, and this is going to be the whole class today. I want to talk about this for the next, as long as we go, is that the time itself is meaningful beyond anything else. And a cornerstone of Jewish spiritual living is understanding that and trying to get in tune with that. Let's begin our journey. You ready? Here we go. The Talmud records many, many conversations that the sages of Israel had with the Roman emperors and Roman generals of the time. The Romans were very, very intrigued by the Jewish culture, Jewish knowledge, Jewish scholarship, especially the bright ones. And they really made an effort to have good dialogue with the Jews because they knew that there's wisdom amongst the Jewish sages, as well as the great philosophers of the time, Greek philosophers, Egyptian philosophers, many, many conversations that are recorded in the Talmud of such conversations. Here's one very fascinating conversation from the Talmud. We ready? Anna, would you like to give us a read? Text 1 on page 103. In your books, page 103.
The Roman emperor asked Rabbi Yehoshua ben Hanaya, why do the dishes of Shabbat produce such an enticing aroma? That's funny. He answered, we have a special spice and it is called Shabbat. And we place it in the Shabbat dishes and it gives off a fragrant aroma. It's very good.
Fascinating little story. All right, so what do we make of this? All right, so look at the Roman emperor's problems in life. The Jews have good smelling food, and how do we get our hands on that? What's the Jew's secret? So he's going, well, I mean, you put up a whole spread on Shabbos. How do you get your food smelling so good? Okay, so you could look at this as being like a bit tongue-in-cheek, or like, a little bit taking him on a ride. He's like, oh, a special spice called Shabbos. Manager special. You got to go to the Grove. You got to know where to look, who to ask. Costs a lot of money. The Shabbos spice. But no, this is not. He's not playing around with him. This sage is being very, very real. Cholent tastes differently on Shabbos than it would on Wednesday, and the proof is Jews eat cholent on Shabbos. They don't eat cholent on Wednesday. Interesting fact. If Jews like it, eat it, right? The Italians only eat meatballs on one day of the week. It's an interesting thing that Jews have a food, but will only touch it on a Saturday. If it's a Monday, I don't want to look at it. Gefilte fish. You ever saw a Jew eating gefilte fish outside of Shabbos? It's a very interesting thing. We need a sociologist and a psychologist to come down and do a study. What's up with this thing? There's Shabbos food, and a Jew will not touch it. Not because he has reverence for it. Just like, I'm not interested in it other than Shabbos. This is actually a Jewish belief. You eat a hot dog July 3rd, and July 4th, it's the same hot dog. But Shabbos, you can make challah in the middle of the week, and it's a wonderful challah. But you make a challah for Shabbos, it tastes different, and it smells different on Shabbos. Now, you can't do a study to confirm this in a lab, but this is the Jewish experience. A food tastes different. There actually is an unbelievable piece of historic writing. About 200 years ago, there was a French Jew who got swept into the waves of enlightenment and assimilation in France. Right? Napoleon wanted to say, right, there's no more differences, we're all Frenchmen. And this was a Jew that got very pulled into that ism, and he totally threw away Judaism and walked away from it, changed his name, I'm a Frenchman, I'm not a Jew, nothing to do with it. And he became a very big intellectual, and he became a big writer, he was a poet. And he has a poem where he says like this, listen, this is 30 years after this Jew walked away from Judaism, nothing, cut everything off. And he writes, I miss nothing about being a Jew, besides one thing. The cholent on Shabbos. This is real. And he says, I'm convinced that when Moses brought down the 10 Commandments on Sinai, God gave to him the secret divine recipe, which is the cholent. And the Jews have somehow kept the recipe under, he says, that's the only thing I miss, that unbelievable aroma and taste of Shabbos cholent. And he says, I'm convinced that the only reason why Jews are still committed to Judaism and not leaving Judaism is because they want their cholent. This is a real text. He's homesick for his cholent. This is the way Judaism sees it. The day itself carries an energy. And it even reflects in the food you eat. The food tastes different on Shabbos. Here's also a story. I'll tell a little story. There's a great Hasidic Rebbe who lived in the early 1800s in Eastern Europe, considered a very, very, like a father figure of the Hasidic movement. His name was Rabbi Yisrael, Rabbi Israel of Ruzhin. That's where he lived, the town of Ruzhin. I'm actually a descendant of his. And they say about him that he was born a tzaddik, a holy man. Just like Moses. The Torah says when Moses was born, the whole house was filled with light. He was born a tzaddik, born a righteous individual. So to this Yisrael of Ruzhin. He was just unbelievably spiritually sensitive from childhood. And then he became the great spiritual leader that he was. So the story goes that he was a little boy studying in the little cheder in Europe, studying Torah with his school teacher. And they were studying the laws of Shabbos. And in the laws of Shabbos, in the Mishnah and the Talmud, you bump into a very interesting discussion, which is, what happens if you're traveling in the desert, you get lost, and you lose track of time. You lose track of days. And you don't know when to keep Shabbos. When do I keep Shabbos? It's a good question, though. And there's a whole discussion of Talmud. Now, by the way, interestingly, that discussion of Talmud becomes the source text for when, in modern times, we have to figure out when the first Jewish astronaut went into space, went into orbit, and you're orbiting Earth every 90 minutes. When do you keep Shabbos? When every 90 minutes is another day. Keeping Shabbos every few hours. How do you do that? Every few hours, keep Shabbos for 90 minutes. Make Kiddush, make another Kiddush, Havdalah, get drunk every few hours, 3 cups of wine within 90 minutes. This text in the Talmud actually, basically, how do you keep Shabbos when you lost track of time, when you're disconnected from time? Okay. So, without getting into the Talmudic discussion, comes along this little boy, 6 years old, and he says, I don't understand. How does this guy not know when Shabbos is? So the teacher says, okay, little boy, let me try to explain to you. I know you've never gotten lost in your life, but there's a concept to get lost for days. And it's really bad, and you lose track of time. You don't know what day it is. And the boy's just still confused. But how do you not know what day Shabbos is? You just know what day Shabbos is. And the teacher's just getting, red-faced, trying to explain to this kid that you could forget what day it is. It's possible. And the kid's just not buying it. So the teacher's just so exacerbated. He just says, well, little boy, why don't you tell me? Why do you think it's so hard for somebody to not know what day Shabbos is? He says, I don't know. I go outside, I look at the sky, and I see today's Shabbos. No. Full disclosure, I don't look up at the sky, and I can't see that today's Shabbos by looking up at the sky. I can't smell the air and say it's Shabbos today. But if you're very deeply spiritual and spiritually sensitive, spiritually in tune, you could go outside and look at the sky and say today's Shabbos. What's the idea? The idea is that what makes Shabbos special, what makes Shabbos holy, is not because we come and say today we're going to commemorate this day. It's not an arbitrary choice. It's not like it could have been Monday, it could have been Wednesday, whatever. We choose Saturday to be Shabbos. No, the day itself, this day on the calendar, is holy whether you like it or not. It's in the ear. It's in the food. So, secular holidays are only assigned value. Jewish holidays are intrinsic value. That's what we see with Shabbos. That the Shabbos spice and the Shabbos sky, Shabbos is in the food, and Shabbos is in the sky. Which is a whole different take on time. All right. Let's do another example of this. There is a Yiddish poem that was written by a Yiddish songwriter. There's an old saying, maybe any of you know how to say it precisely, that you can understand the people by listening to the stories they tell. The stories that people share is really, that tells you what their beliefs are, what their value systems are. Everything about a people you can tell in their stories. There's such a cliche out there, right? So I'll tell you a story. Is the story true? I don't know. But this is the story. The story is that there was a Jewish captain in the Soviet Navy. Well, he was conscripted as a young man and rose the ranks, and he was not a Jew who was connected to Jewish observance anymore. And he was high up there in the army, which is a very big part of Jewish Russian history. Okay. And the story is like this. This captain, he's bringing his ship to port. Which port? I think the story is it was Odessa. And as he gets close to the port, he starts hearing a melody. And the melody starts driving him mad. And he right away goes and docks his army boat. And he runs into the city, running through the streets, trying to pin down the song. But he can't find the song. Right, you see what's going on over here? So let's read this little piece of the story. Fred, we're up to you. Text 2 on page 104. The story, here's a little piece of the little poem.
He weaves through the streets, hot on the trail, the melody's stronger and stronger. What is its message? What is its tale? His heart can't hold out much longer. He spots a babushka walking along, crossing the street in the middle. Can she decipher the mysterious song? Can she solve this great riddle? Grandma, he says, please listen to me. This song in my ear is quite bruising. The melody is haunting, it won't let me be. I fear that my mind I am losing. Your face tells me, comes the reply, that you are a Jew, my dear skipper. You're churning, you're burning. I'll tell you why. Tonight is the night of Yom Kippur.
That's a story. You can actually, if you want, maybe I'll send to you. You could hear the Yiddish song. It's like a whole tune, beautiful tune, and the song like reaches a crescendo right here at this point. And the guy says, he starts screaming out, "Tonight is Yom Kippur!" He gives out a shout. And he says, "Yeah, I'm remembering my childhood years." Okay, this is the story, and the story is that the ships, all the what are they called? All the ships officers are looking for their captain, but he's nowhere to be found. They're trying to find him, but he got swept into the city. This is okay. Is it a true story? Is it a mythical story? I don't know. It's
Into the city or into the sea?
No, into the city. He found his shul. He went. That's it. Yom Kippur. He just abandoned ship.
I think it's a story.
Maybe it's a real story. You think it's fake? Now, why is it fake? Number one, if it's indeed the times, 1920s, 1930s, former Soviet Union, there's no public singing of Kol Nidre Yom Kippur night. You know, right? Judaism is being practiced right undercover in the quiet. And also, Odessa's a big city. I was actually in Odessa for a few weeks. It's a big city. Right? It was always considered a very large metropolis, Russian-Ukrainian city. So, won't get into that, but okay. I'm just, right, disclosure, I have no affiliation or opinion. Okay, keeping out of it. Okay. It's a big city, right? You're not walking around hearing songs being sung in a synagogue, in the streets, or from the port. But what's it coming and telling you? It's a song that reflects a very big truth of the Jewish people, that Yom Kippur is not just a day. My heart beats differently on Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is special. Why? The day is special. It's not because I celebrate or I don't celebrate it. Which basically means like this. In Judaism, days and holidays are not meaningful because we celebrate them. It's the opposite. We celebrate them because the day is meaningful. Yom Kippur is today. That's why we celebrate Yom Kippur. Meaning the specialness comes first. The meaning comes first. And I want to read this next text with you, which is crazy. I read this a few years ago, and this hit me over the head. It's from a book, from a guy his name was Rabbi Shlomo Schwartz. He was a rabbi in Los Angeles. He also was known as Schwartzy. Anybody here who comes from LA? All right, no. He was a character and a half, this guy, Schwartzy. He passed away relatively young. He was a Chabad rabbi, but then one day he discovered that being dressed as a formal rabbi with his Chabad, in a suit and a hat, it was creating a certain distance between him and the rest of the Jews he was working with. So one day he said, that's it, I'm done with it. He never wore a hat and a jacket and the whole Hasidic look ever again. And he wore a tie-dye shirt and baggy pants, and that was his MO. It was a very colorful character. And he started writing a book. He didn't finish it, but his children published it. A book called I Love When That Happens. It's a wild ride. This guy was very wild. You want to get a good read. I love when that happens. And here's a little piece from there. I want to set up the story over here. He says that one of the things that he did work with, he was at UCLA. And he was there in the hippie time, in the crazy time. So he realized he just has to be crazy, to be able to work with the crazy atmosphere of the time. And he got close to the staff, and as well he dealt with the Jewish kids who were brought into what was called the NPI, Neuropsychiatric Institute. So he has a connection with Jewish doctors, and one day, a Jewish doctor at the NPI, tells this Rabbi Schwartzy, he was called, about a unofficial study that he's slowly been observing over the past few years, and he found it fascinating. Let's read this. Text read. This is pretty crazy. All right, Lori, give us a read. Text read, page 105.
The doctor told me that an average of 5 people per day experience breakdowns and are brought to MPI. Few of them are Jewish. But, he said, I have noticed that every single year around the Jewish holidays, the Jewish admittance goes up dramatically. And on one day each year, admittance spikes closer to 20 people, with 15 of them Jewish. Which day is that, I asked. The doctor said Yom Kippur. And here is the punchline. Each year, when admittance to MPI went up on Yom Kippur, it was on the Hebrew calendar date, the 10th day of Tishrei, not a consistent date on the secular calendar. The Jews who were brought in on Yom Kippur didn't even know it was Yom Kippur.
So this doctor has been doing studies year after year. He basically realized there's like a weird thing. There's an annual spike. And he's a Jewish doctor, and all of a sudden he realizes that's the day of Yom Kippur. And it's not just a spike of admittance, it's a spike in how many Jews are coming in. Now, you can write this off as just hearsay, as just somebody conjecturing. But this is absolutely a truth of the Jewish culture. Yom Kippur is a day that stirs the Jewish soul. It's a fact. Now, I don't know if it's a provable fact, but it's provable fact that Jews who don't care about anything in Judaism, but they make sure to go at least do something for Yom Kippur. There's something very, very powerful about that. Why would a day move you? I understand if there's a day, and I don't know, it's a special day for you. Let's say it's your anniversary. Okay, so you make it special. You're mindful of it, and that imbues the day with meaning. Could you say you wake up one day and all of a sudden your heart's skipping differently that day? All of a sudden, it feels different. You feel this inner tension within you because of a day. The day arrived. It's a very, very fascinating concept. But Judaism says, yes, Yom Kippur comes, and there's a tugging of the soul on Yom Kippur. The day brings it. You don't have to know it's Yom Kippur. That's what happens with a soul. A soul gets tugged on Yom Kippur. You feel a little bit of that pull. Either you know what it means, and you respond to it, and it's a day of growth and connection, or you don't know. And you have a hard time interpreting what this weird feeling that you're feeling is. And sometimes it can even send you to a psychiatric ward. But something is happening on Yom Kippur. The day itself is holy and special. So, dear friends, what I want to share with you is like this, right? Yom Kippur stirs the soul, awakens the heart. In Judaism, days and time in general, I want to start with holidays, but I'm not here to talk about holidays. I want to talk about time in general. In Judaism, the Jewish calendar is built. The Jewish calendar is actually not assigning meaning to random dates. It's telling us what is the spiritual pulse of time. When the Jewish calendar tells you today is Hanukkah, it's not that, okay, X amount of years ago, over 2,000 years ago, a story happened, which either I care about or I don't care about. Right? Who cares about 2,000-year-old stories? And this is the day that it happened, so if you want to commemorate it, this would be a nice day to commemorate it. Or, no, it's not assigned meaning, it's not assigned value. Judaism is actually telling you there's a spiritual energy to this day. Stop, take tune to it. Be in tune to it. Try to bring it into your consciousness. There's something special happening today. Don't just walk past by it. Don't be too busy today. Bring it in. Okay. This attitude that time in Judaism is not just meaningless, but it's something which carries meaning, helps explain something which is an unbelievable question in Judaism, an unbelievable thing in Judaism. And it takes us to this week's Torah portion. When the rabbi gets up and says this week's Torah portion, it usually is a cue for people to go to sleep, right? They say no good speech ever starts with this week's Torah portion. It's true, no? It's probably going to be very irrelevant and very unmeaningful. Okay, but this week's Torah portion, no, this is going to be good. This week's Torah portion has the whole story of Jacob and Esau, the twin brothers, and rivals, polar opposite personalities. And there's this whole drama. Their father, our forefather Isaac, he's blind, he can't see. and he wants to give a special blessing to his son Esau, and Jacob plots with his mom Rebekah to go and steal the blessing first. Mysterious story. You got to learn it. You got to learn it. There's a lot of spiritual significance to this story. And that's the story. Esau was very, very hairy-bodied. So Rebekah helps Isaac put on a special artificial hair. And he speaks in a voice that resembles his twin brother Esau. And the Torah says that Jacob approaches his father to deceive him, to deceptively steal the blessings. And his mom prepares a dish. What's the dish? Lamb meat. Not bad for lunch, huh? Lamb meat. Rebekah gives Jacob a dish of lamb meat. Go to dad and make as if you're Esau. That's what happens. A whole drama, which we're not going to get into right now. We once did a course called Secrets of the Bible, and we had a whole class trying to decipher this whole story. What's going on over here? It's a very mysterious story. And it's an unbelievable, it was a class of Kabbalah. What's the Kabbalah behind the story? Unbelievable class, but not for now. Now, here's just the basic. The Torah doesn't randomly give us trivial details. Right? The drapes on the window were blue. Right? This is not what the Torah does. The Torah gives us critical pieces of information. So why would the Torah tells us what Rebekah is serving to her husband Isaac through Jacob for lunch? Lamb meat. Like, does anybody care what's on the menu today? Why is that a necessary detail to write in the Torah? It's a fair question, no? And our sages tell us, I'll tell you why. Because actually that date on the calendar was the date of the Seder. That was the day of Passover. And what do we do on Passover? A critical part of the Seder, which we actually can't do because we don't have a holy temple in Jerusalem, is something called the Paschal offering, the Pesach offering, which is what the Jews did their final night in Egypt. They brought a lamb as an offering, you slaughter it, and they ate it at the first Seder. And ever since then, eating a lamb that's brought as a sacrifice, as an offering, is eaten at the Seder. Today we can't do it, but we mention it. We mention it in the Haggadah, that really there should be a lamb here. We're waiting for the Holy Temple to be rebuilt. And then we can have a good Seder with a lamb meat. That's the real way to do a Seder, you know? That's what we're missing. Afikomen. What's Afikomen today? Eat matzah. You know what Afikomen was? You know what Afikomen really is meant to be? Lamb meat. The offering. That's how you finish the meal. That's a way to finish a meal, no? A good dish. Okay. So, today's the day you bring it. What's the mitzvah today? It's Pesach. You bring lamb meat. So she made lamb meat for her husband. And this becomes a theme. That really, we also have the story that Abraham and his wife Sarah made a meal for the three visitors, who were really three angels. And also, he's serving the meat. Why? It was for a Seder. Today's Passover. And going back even earlier in the history of mankind, one of the first stories of the Torah is the first act of murder. Remember, my father taught me this riddle when I was a little kid. He says, who murdered a quarter of the world's civilization? Oh, I don't know, Hitler. No. He killed a lot of people, not a quarter. Who killed a quarter? And it's Cain. Right? There's only 4 human beings alive. Adam, Eve, and they have Cain and Abel, and Cain murders Abel. Very interesting, right? It's a good riddle, okay? I remember my father challenged me with that riddle. Okay. Cain kills Abel. Okay. What's the story? The stories are both bringing offerings to God, and Cain gets very offended by Abel's offering being better than his, and he goes and kills him. First act of murder in human history. Okay. Why they bring an offering today? Comes our sages and says, Adam told his children, today's Passover. Today's the day that we bring an offering to God. So go bring an offering to God. That's the setup of the whole drama there. This becomes like a recurring theme that all the holidays are being celebrated by our forefathers even before they happened, which is a bit weird, right? There's a very, very elementary question over here, which is, what does it even mean commemorating something that didn't even yet happen? Won't happen for another 1,000 years, 500 years, 300 years. What exactly are you celebrating? Why would you celebrate something which didn't yet happen? Wait till something happens, and there's something to do with a lamb, so it's meaningful. So every year we'll do something with a lamb. Why would you do that? Right? Why would you do that before that even happens? And the answer gives us an insight into how time works. Why do we celebrate Passover on this day on the calendar? The 15th of Nisan. And we prepare for the Seder on the 14th of Nisan. Why this date? So you'll say, well, this was the date the Jewish people came out of Egypt. So here's a question for you. What happens if 8 months before Passover you bought really expensive tickets to some game? Or a really cool show, very limited tickets in New York City. And all of a sudden you realize, oh my God, that's the night of the Seder. What are you going to do now? So what if somebody says, listen, we got these tickets, they're non-refundable, this is our only chance to do it. Tickets are for this day. Like, what's the big deal? We'll do a Seder the night before or the night after. No big deal. You know what I'm saying? No, it's not a big deal. But we're still going to do the Seder, the whole shebang, the whole deal. We're going to make it good. We'll do a Seder. One day off. It's not hurting anybody, right? That attitude would work if the day is not meaningful. And you're just assigning meaning to the day. It's like, yeah, big deal, I need to have my birthday party on my birthday or the next day. I don't mind if I have the next day, right? It's not a big deal. Even though the day is very important, right? But it's not hurting anybody. But this is the way Judaism sees it. Judaism says it's the exact opposite. The day of Passover is not holy, it's not special because something happened that day. The opposite. The day is special. That's actually why something happened there. Which means, certain times strategically placed throughout the Jewish calendar, God made days that are special. The day itself carries an energy. And what that means is that when you come to this day, there's a certain spiritual energy in the day that was not in the ear yesterday and will not be here tomorrow. On Passover, it's the special spiritual energy, the holy energy of freedom, that gives a Jew the freedom to be a Jew, to be deeply committed, and to live a little bit higher than all the challenges of our environment. That's the energy. And that energy was given to these days of the calendar from the beginning of time. And when Hanukkah comes, we're not celebrating Hanukkah because these are the days that circumstantially the days the Maccabees won and we lit the menorah in the temple. No! From the beginning of time, this was the day that carried the miracle of light. The miracle that a little bit of light defies light. From the beginning of time, this was the energy of the day. So when that miracle had to come out and play out practically, to be manifest in the physical universe, when did God make it happen? On the day that carries that energy. So the Exodus couldn't have happened any other day. This is the day for the Exodus. Rosh Hashanah can't happen any other day. This is the day that carries energy. Yom Kippur, tomorrow it's not Yom Kippur anymore. It's done. Why? Because it's not arbitrary. The day itself carries a meaning. I told you this joke. I'm going to tell it to you again. It's a very deep joke. All right, but we already said the joke, so we'll just get straight to the punchline. A guy is standing in a street corner looking for his wallet, right? And two nice guys walk over and say, let's help you find your wallet. They look, they can't find the wallet. They're like, sir, we looked all over the place. Are you sure you dropped your wallet here? He's like, no, I didn't drop it here. I dropped it half a block over. Like, so what are we doing here? He says, well, here's where there's a lamppost. Here we got some light to look. Why go there? There's no light there. Okay, so it's such silly logic that right? We don't even have to, right? It's an insult to our intelligence to even have to, right, explain what went wrong over here. But it's basically, if the whole thing is fake, you're not really looking for anything, it doesn't matter where you look for it. But if there's something, there's actually a wallet here. There's something to be found here. Then it's not going to work somewhere else. Jewish holidays are not just commemorative, traditional. I hate the word tradition. I told this to you before. The word tradition is treif. Terrible word. Terrible. Why? What does the word tradition connote? The word tradition means this is meaningless. I don't care about it. But my great-great-grandmother once did this, so yeah, why not? Let's do it. Turkey on Thanksgiving. Traditional. Really? It's meaningful? There's any real thing? No, there's no significance to the turkey. Whatever. Traditional. Somebody decided this is what you do. Meaning the word tradition sucks any real substance out of anything. So is Judaism traditional? Is a Seder just a commemorative experience? Or is this, no, there's an energy here to be tapped into? And if so, it makes a lot of sense that our forefathers are celebrating Passover before Passover happened. Why? Because what actually happened on Passover was simply a physical expression of the energy of Passover. And the energy of Passover is there in the day. What this also means is it changes, it flips the meaning of time and the meaning of Jewish celebrations. Usually, generally speaking, the further away you move from something, from a date, the less meaning, the more irrelevant it becomes, or the less relevant. Right, just think about it. 9/11/2002. Was that a very special day? That was very special, right? A very somber day for our nation. First anniversary of 9/11. 20 years later, 25 years later, 9/11. It's losing its meaning. It's very unfortunate. Kids today don't really care about 9/11, Talk to me about something that's happening in Timbuktu, It's just a fact of life. That's the way it happens. I wasn't born then. When you tell me stories about before I was around, I don't know. It just loses its meaning. That's what happens. As time goes by, people lose meaning. If there was a great, very important date in your own family that happened 100 years ago, for your grandfather, this was a very special day. Today, you're like, I don't know. I don't even know what it was. Yeah, maybe some vague memory that there was some family tradition. I don't know. It's old stories. I don't know. What do you want me to do? You want me to stop my life for old history? So, if we look at Judaism as marching into the future while trying to commemorate the past, then what we're basically doing is every single year Passover becomes less and less meaningful and less relevant. Because you really want me to make a whole shebang out of something that happened 3,300 years ago? I get it. It was a very important moment for our nation. But it's 3,000 years later. What do you want from me? So the Maccabees won a great miracle 2,000 years ago. I'm really happy, but this doesn't have to turn into an 8-day holiday here. That, just, that's the argument. That could lose its relevance. But if you realize, no, Hanukkah is just as relevant today as it was that first day it happened. Why? Because they were tapping into an energy on a national level, but that energy is still alive and present right now for me. This is the day, 25th of Kislev. This is Hanukkah right now. And I can make that miracle happen in my own life. Passover is just as meaningful today. This is the energy that they had. They had the expression of this energy, but that same energy is present in my world, in my life right now. This is highly, highly meaningful. This is holy time. Let's read text 4. Where are we doing? Lisa, text 4 on page 106.
Holy time. Where should I have my glasses? Rabbi Mendel Kalmanson.
No, just read the text.
Just read it. Okay. Abraham wasn't celebrating an event in the future. He was tapping into the spiritual energy of the freedom that was and always is present at that time of year. The energy of liberation is encoded into the composition of annual cycle.
There we have it. So, there's two ways to look at this. Either Exodus happened, so therefore the 15th of Nisan is holy, or the 15th of Nisan is inherently holy, and that is why the Exodus happened that day. So Judaism teaches us that dates carry meaning. Not because of what happened. It's not assigned meaning, but it's inherent meaning. The day always deserved to have the Exodus happen on this day. It always was the day for the Exodus. And then one day it happened. Just like Mount Wilson was always the best mountain for this type of research. And one day somebody actually said, let's do the research there. But it was always the mountain for this. This is always the climate for maple syrup, even before people realize this is, I don't know, how you extract maple syrup from a tree. But this is always the primed environment for it. That's how time works in Judaism. And as I said, Judaism, what God did is, He placed throughout the Jewish calendar wells of energy, well springs of energy. And as we travel through the Jewish calendar every single year, we bump into these special moments of tremendous energy. And with Jewish law, the basis of Jewish law telling us, you know what? Today is a holiday. Today is Sukkot. Maybe today don't go to work. And maybe today don't be busy. Try to be a little bit more spiritually in tune. Give more attention to your soul today. You know why? Because today there's an unbelievable gift. Try to tap into it. Shabbos, there's a special energy in the air. Don't ignore it. There's something to take in over here. Spend time with your family. Make a whole meal that we're going to dedicate to celebrate this day. It's a whole different attitude. The day itself has an energy, and it's up to me to either tap into it, to bring it into my consciousness or not. Let's read text 6, page 108. You have to remind me your first name.
Cheryl.
Sharon.
Cheryl.
Cheryl, that's right, Cheryl. Okay, text 6, page 108.
Wells in time. Each festival marks a point in our journey through time at which our Heavenly Father supplied us with resources that nurture our spiritual lives. On Passover, we were granted the gift of freedom. On Shavuot, God gave us His Torah, our charter as His kingdom of priests and a holy people. Rosh Hashanah is the day on which God first became king. On Yom Kippur, God granted us the gift of Teshuvah, the capacity to rectify and transform a deficient past. Hanukkah marks the salvation of the Jewish soul, the triumph of light and purity over darkness and adulteration, the miracle of Purim, the salvation of the Jewish body, and so with all the festivals and special dates and periods on our calendar.
This is really what time is in Judaism. And I want to apply this in a moment, not just the holidays, but to every single moment of history and every single day of our lives, which is that the time itself is giving us an energy, and Jewish spiritual living means we want to try to tap into that energy. We don't want this day to go by and we miss what just happened. We want to tap into it. This is a very special gift all these days. So if we just take a look over here on page 108, just for an example over here. We have here Hanukkah. We're coming up to Hanukkah very soon, right? In just under a month. So either Hanukkah is celebrating history, or the history itself is helping teach us what the energy of today is in 2025. Yeah, it's not going to be 2026 yet this year. So what are the different messages? And by the way, it's an 8-day holiday. Why is Hanukkah 8 days? Obviously, it takes 8 days to really get into the mode. There's a lot of special energy in the ear to come into contact with. Just take a look over here.
It's the light. The light lasts. The oil lasted.
Oh, so you can either say, well, circumstantial, and it's true. But even then, I'll ask, so why did the oil last for 8 days? Didn't have to be an 8-day holiday. Why did God make it this 8-day holiday? Because these are the 8 days that carry this meaning. This is the energy of these 8 days. Which means even before Hanukkah happened, these 8 days were always special days.
It's almost like taking everything we ever learned and like reversing it.
I love it. Reverse it. Yeah, exactly. Turn time upside down. Turn meaning upside down. 100%. By the way, yes.
Just a quick question. Is the same true with birth and death of a person?
Yes, we're going to talk about that soon. I want to make it personal, and I want to bring it down to everything. But 100%. You can either say, why was I born on this day?
Yeah.
Or you can even say, why was I even born in the first place? Right? It's a mistake. By the way, this is, if you think about it, this is actually the exact same theme, the same linchpin of the previous classes we're doing here again. What was the difference between meaning and purpose? Right? First is you exist. I don't know if I have any meaning. Let me try to make meaning to it. That's assigned meaning. But how does Judaism see what the meaning of life is? The real meaning, the real purpose of life is? No. First there's a purpose. And then we just actualize it. We find a way to bring it out. Same thing here with time, right?
So is there a death date along with the birth date?
The day that a person passes away is a meaningful date for that person. Let's talk about birth. Why was I born on this day? Why were my children born on this day? And there's no question about it. This is the day that captures the energy of this soul that's coming down to earth. This is the day that they need to be born on. Any other day, and there wouldn't be the right energy for this soul. This is the day. So your personal birthday is like your personal Rosh Hashanah. Same Rosh Hashanah has a very powerful energy that it captures the energy of renewal for the new year for all of humanity and for the whole world. That's my birthday. It's a very deeply spiritual day. It's not just an arbitrary thing. Well, I happen to be born today, so let me celebrate this day. But we'll get to that soon. Let's take a look over here at Hanukkah. There's a bunch of different messages of the energy. What spiritual energy were the Maccabees and the Jews of those times manifesting and expressing? Number one, there's the energy of Hanukkah, that each night of Hanukkah we had a new candle. We're always adding in light. And that's the energy that gives us the inspiration and the power that we shouldn't be stagnant. We should always be growing as a Jewish soul. It's the holiday of self-sacrifice, where the Maccabees risked it all and it made no sense. They went beyond logic, and we need to do that as well. Go beyond our limitations. Be ready to fight, and be a little bit crazy for our Jewish spark. The idea of doing your best. The Maccabees wouldn't settle on anything less than perfect. They wanted it to be pure oil. The miracle of the last jug of oil, which is really the miracle that there's always going to be a spark within the Jewish reservoir, within every single Jew, that can never be lost. You could tamper with everything besides that one little spark of the Jew. There's always going to be one jug of oil within the Jewish soul that you can never ever break. The miracle of light overcoming darkness. That Judaism is something that's outward, should take over the streets, light the menorah in public, spread the light in the darkness. These are the energies that this holiday has brought to the fore, but these are the energies that have always been there. Now, dear friends, we have about 20 minutes to drop under for the rest of today's class. I want to bring this practical over here. What this means is Jewish holidays is really, this principle that we just learned about Jewish holidays really is teaching us about every single day of life. You can either wake up in the morning and say, here's another day. Another day like yesterday. Another day like tomorrow. There's nothing special about it. Let's try to make it special. Or the Jewish attitude is, no. This day is a day that never existed and never will exist. There's a day of the week. There's a day of the month. There's a Torah portion. All these things are creating a energy profile of something very special in the air. Today's a day that I, as a Jew, have something special, a special energy that I can get in touch with, and that is part of my mission here on planet Earth. It ties into time. Judaism is very spiritual living, means that we're in tune with time. The Torah portion of the week, there's an annual cycle. We read the Torah in the synagogue on every single Shabbos. We go through the whole Torah. Now, it's not just that we read it on Shabbos. The whole week is the theme of that Torah portion. That's the energy of the week. There's even an idea in all Jewish writing, the way you write what day it is, you write what Torah portion it is. This is very classic. You write Tuesday of the week of Parshas Toldos, which is this week. Toldos. It means the whole week is living with this thing. There's a Jewish idea in Jewish mysticism that a Jew has to live with the times, not the New York Times. There's an energy to time. You got to live with the energy of the time. It's a very powerful concept. I want to show you a video on this. A video from the Rebbe. Okay. Each event revealed a spiritual wellspring, a source of energy that we can access again and again. Okay, here's a video. The Rebbe was very into this. This is something which the Rebbe really felt for. To educate Jews and to share this idea of the energy of time, that we should use that as to teach ourselves, to inspire ourselves, to get into this spiritual energy of the time. So here we got a little video. You ready? Here we go.
Learning the clock is an early milestone, but the Lubavitcher Rebbe taught that there's more to time than just hours and minutes. Every second is alive with purpose. The Rebbe explained that because God is constantly creating the world anew, today isn't just a repeat of yesterday. Each moment is freshly charged with its own mission. Our job is to live with the times, to discover what today is meant to bring out in us. How do we do that? Think of 3 easy steps. Step 1, notice the layers of time. Every moment has many labels. The day of the week, the daily section of the weekly Torah portion, the month of the Jewish calendar, the present year, and special events like birthdays and anniversaries. The Rebbe emphasized that each of these factors carries a personal lesson for that day. Step 2, tap into the power in the date. The Rebbe often pointed out that since creation is precise and purposeful, each weekday echoes the story of its creation. For example, Wednesday, when the sun and moon were formed, is a day to increase and share light.
In den festen Tag von Woch, was damals sagt man, der Rebischter hat beschaffen, es Hamoyer HaGodim, die Sohn, es Hamoyer HaKotom, die Levone.
Each month adds its own energy. For example, Nisan brings freedom and miracles, and the 18th of any month highlights time, the power of life. Step 3. Find the order of the day. The Rebbe loved the image of God as our commander-in-chief and us as his soldiers. Each day receives a unique assignment from our commander-in-chief. He urged us to live with the time, drawing guidance from the daily section of the weekly Torah portion. Like a soldier checking the day's orders first thing in the morning, we look to Torah to discover today's mission.
Aber so leben mit der Zeit und Masbir gewähren hat das Mitnehmen mit der Chibrik von Parshas HaShavua, was die Jünger Parsha gut verbunden mit dem Krog.
Instead of letting time slip by, we should fill each moment with purpose and joy. The real question isn't just what time is it, it's what is this time for? When we live this way, every day becomes a time of day, waiting to be open to good deeds.
All right. So, dear friends, the message over here, I want to give you two closing assignments for each of you. Number one is a part of being a Jew is that we should try as much as we can to tap into the time that we are living through. Shouldn't just be a passive fact. Today is a certain day. There's an idea. What's this week's Torah portion? What month of the Jewish calendar is it? Which holiday are we working towards? And get yourself in the mode of it. Learn about it. Not just learn about it to be informed, but learn about it to be in tune to the knowledge of this time. Learn the weekly Torah portion. There's an idea. Every single parsha is split into 7 aliyot. 7 is for 7 days of the week. So today's Wednesday. Today's energy is the fourth portion of this week's parsha. Parsha's told us. So there's an idea every single day to learn the daily Torah portion. By the way, it's relatively easy to do. You could find it online. You learn with the commentary of Rashi, and all of a sudden, within 1 year, you learn the whole Torah. First of all, the level of knowledge is just in 1 year. You can start it today. In a year from now, I learned through the whole Torah. But also, it brings you, it gives you what to think about. And what are the messages that the Torah is trying to teach me today? Somebody once told me that in general, the Seder is just a schlep for them. They go to the Seder, and it's whatever. They do it. He does it for the family. He's just very uninspired about it. Whatever, it's a whole long thing, and a spiel, you got to read the Seder, you got to read the Haggadah. He's like, I'm just very uninspired about it. So I said, listen. I said, let me ask you an honest question. Do you do any study or any thinking or any connecting with the themes of the Seder, the themes of Passover before Passover? Or do you just crash land into your first Seder? Oh, today is Seder night, let's make the Seder. Like, yeah, of course. If you don't give yourself the time to consciously connect with what's happening, it's going to be very, very hard to make it meaningful. If Hanukkah is coming, Hanukkah doesn't start the night of Hanukkah. You got to start now. Learn about Hanukkah. Read about it. This is a living, breathing energy that is happening to us this year, and it's up to us. And spiritual living. The Kabbalah of Meaning is that we're living with that time. If you want to look in your book over here, we're not going to get into it, but here's just a little sampling starting on page 110 of different themes of meaning of days of the week, days of the month, the months themselves, and what is the general theme of every single Torah portion. So that's number one. That spiritual living means we try to get in touch with these things. But the next thing I want to share with you is marking birthdays. Marking birthdays in Judaism is considered a very holy thing. This is my personal day. It's not meaningful because I was born on this day. This day was always a special, meaningful day, connected to the identity and the purpose and the mission of my soul. And that's why I'm marking it. I'm getting in touch with the fact, why am I needed here on earth? Why did God put me here? And there's an energy that's radiating in this world only on the day of your birthday. Not your secular birthday. This is Hebrew birthday. The day that you were born, real time is Hebrew time. Real time is a Jewish calendar. That's just like we saw in the story from Schwartz, Yom Kippur, right? Even though the date is changing on the secular calendar, the Hebrew calendar is the energy, the real spiritual energy of the day. So if you want, you can go online, you can Google this. Something called Hebrew Birthday Calculator. You put in the date that you were born, date, year, and they're going to ask you if it was morning or night, because Jewish days change, not at midnight, but at sundown. And it'll tell you what your Hebrew birthday is. And I think you set a reminder online. They'll send you an email telling you every single year what day this next year is going to be your birthday. And then make it special. Make it a spiritual day that you connect with. If you look here on page 122, you'll see here, the Rebbe put together a 10-point program of what we should be doing on our birthdays to make it special, to try to connect with the meaning, the spirituality of the day, because it's a very special personal day. And dear friends, the message to all of us is that the Kabbalah of Meaning is that we have to be in tune to time, and we have to know that we are not just living, floating through existence. Every single day that we are alive carries a unique energy, special energy, and it's up to us. Living with purpose means that I'm trying to be in touch and live with the purpose of today. What's the unique gift of today that God has placed into this world that comes with time? And that's called purpose. Dear friends, with that, we conclude today's class. Lesson 5 is in 2 weeks, so not next week, but next week. Lesson 5, Meaning in the Unchosen, only gets better and better. And dear friends,